I was 17 when I first found out that my spine was slowly crushing itself. It started as a dull ache in my lower back that I blamed on long hours at my part-time job. But as weeks turned to months, the pain became unbearable. I couldn't sit for more than 10 minutes without tearing up. And some nights I'd wake up screaming. After dozens of doctor visits, tests, and a painful MRI, the diagnosis came. I had a rare spinal condition, and if I didn't get surgery within the next 6 months, I'd risk permanent nerve damage, possibly paralysis. I remember the look on my mom's face when the doctor explained it. Blank. My dad rubbed his chin, but didn't say anything. I had just turned 18, and I still had 1 semester left in school. I wasn't expecting a miracle, but I thought they'd at least hold my hand, tell me they'd figure it out. Instead, they nodded stiffly and walked me out. Not a single word about how we'd pay for it. I knew we weren't rich, but we had always gotten by. And when I told them I was willing to work even harder, pick up more shifts, open a donation page, they told me to focus on school and let them handle it. So I did. I believed them. 2 months later, I noticed my dad wasn't using our old beat-up Corolla anymore. My younger brother, Tyler, who was just 16, suddenly had his own car. A shiny new gray Honda Civic with tinted windows, leather seats, and a spoiler he didn't even need. I laughed at first, thinking maybe it was a rental, but he drove it every day. And that night, I overheard them celebrating. My mom giggling as she told my dad, "We did good. He's going to be the envy of his school." I waited until they were asleep. I went into the hall closet and opened the small lockbox where they had stashed the surgery fund. My parents weren't subtle. They had made me believe they were saving the money for the hospital. I had even added in the cash from my part-time job. I counted it every week. There should have been nearly $11,000 in there. There was $42. My heart dropped. My legs literally gave out, and I sat on the floor of the hallway in the dark, holding the empty box, shaking. I felt stupid, betrayed, hollow. I wanted to scream, but couldn't find my voice. And the pain in my back, it was throbbing so hard I could barely breathe. The next morning, I confronted them. My mom looked at me like I was being dramatic. "You'll be fine," she said. "We'll figure something out. But your brother needed that car. You only turned 16 once." My dad didn't even look at me. Tyler just grinned like it was some joke. "You'll survive," he muttered. "You always do." I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just nodded slowly, walked to my room, and locked the door. For 3 days, I didn't come out except to eat. And in those 3 days, I made a plan, a quiet, painful plan. I applied for grants, emailed doctors, reached out to charity programs, and posted my story online. One night, I shared it anonymously in a support group, and someone messaged me, a woman who had gone through a similar condition years ago. She shared resources, introduced me to a foundation that covered emergency medical procedures for young adults, with no family support. Within weeks, they connected me with a surgeon in another state who agreed to operate on me at a fraction of the cost. All I needed to do was get there, and I had $42. But I also had rage and clarity. My parents had chosen my brother's popularity over my ability to walk. That wasn't family. That wasn't love. So I packed a single bag, sold everything I owned that had value, my phone, my headphones, even my old laptop. It wasn't enough, but I reached out to the support group again, and they raised the rest. Strangers who'd never met me gave more to my life than my own blood did. On the morning of my 18th birthday, I left a note. It didn't say much, just that I was getting my surgery, and I hoped one day they'd realize what they did. I didn't want to hate them, but I also didn't know if I'd ever speak to them again. I boarded a bus that took me 10 hours away in agonizing pain, but each mile felt like freedom. I thought the worst part was over. I was wrong. The bus ride felt like an eternity. Every bump in the road sent lightning bolts of pain up my spine. But I bit my lip and kept quiet. There was a girl next to me, maybe in her mid-20s, who offered me half her sandwich and asked why I kept wincing. I didn't have the energy to explain. I just told her I had a bad back. She nodded, told me I looked like I'd been through hell. I gave a small smile. If only she knew. When I finally arrived in Denver, a volunteer from the foundation was waiting for me with a sign that had my name on it. She introduced herself as Melanie, a retired nurse with soft eyes and a no-nonsense tone. She insisted on carrying my bag and practically dragged me to her car when she saw how I was limping. That night, she gave me her guest room, tucked me in like I was her own child, and told me everything would be okay. It was the first time in months someone made me feel safe. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. In the days leading up to it, Melanie took care of everything: food, meds, even helping me bathe when I could barely stand. She didn't ask questions, but I finally opened up one night, spilling everything about the money, the car, the betrayal. Her face darkened with each word, and when I finished, she hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would snap. "Honey," she whispered, "some people are born into families. Others have to find them." The surgery was brutal. I woke up groggy, tubes in my arms, throat dry, body aching. But the pain was different, cleaner, like my body was finally healing instead of breaking down. The surgeon said it had gone well, but I had a long recovery ahead. Still, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. For the first time in forever, I wasn't falling apart. I was fighting back. And then something happened that I never expected. A letter arrived at Melanie's house, handwritten and smudged. It was from my brother. Not my parents, just Tyler. I stared at it for hours before opening it. It wasn't an apology. Not really. More like guilt leaking through the cracks of his ego. He wrote that he didn't know how bad things were for me, that he just thought I was being dramatic. That he felt awful every time he drove that car. And he couldn't stop thinking about me limping around the house while he was out showing off. He said he sold the car, that he wanted to give the money back, that he wanted to come see me. I didn't know how to respond. I ignored the letter for a week. But every night I'd reread it, trying to decide if it was genuine or just another trick. Then Melanie gave me some unexpected advice. "You don't forgive people for them," she said. "You do it so you don't rot inside. You decide what forgiveness looks like. It doesn't have to mean going back. It just means letting go." So I called him. He cried when he heard my voice. That surprised me. I hadn't heard Tyler cry since we were little. He told me our parents hadn't even tried to find me, that they acted like I was just being rebellious, like I'd gone off to punish them. He said Mom felt guilty but was too proud to say it. Dad, as always, said nothing. Tyler was the only one who actually seemed to care that I was gone. But I wasn't ready to let him into my life fully. I told him I appreciated the letter and the gesture. I told him to keep the money. I didn't want it. What I needed was peace, distance, and the space to rebuild my life without the shadow of betrayal hanging over me. The next 6 months were grueling. Physical therapy almost broke me. I had to relearn how to stand, sit, even walk without wincing. Some days I hated my body. Other days, I thanked it for not giving up on me. Melanie was my rock. The foundation helped me enroll in online college courses, and I got a remote job tutoring kids in math and science. Bit by bit, I started building a future that had nothing to do with the house I grew up in. One day, Melanie surprised me with a birthday cake. "It wasn't even my birthday. It's your rebirth." She grinned. "The day you chose you." I laughed and cried at the same time. No one had ever made me feel like I was worth celebrating. Then 3 weeks later, the real twist came. I got a call from a lawyer. He told me my grandmother, my dad's estranged mother, who I'd only met twice in my life, had passed away in her will. She left behind a small cabin in Montana and a note that read, "To the one grandchild who still has a heart, make it your home." Apparently, she'd been watching from a distance. My online story had somehow reached her. She hadn't spoken to my dad in years, but she told her attorney that I deserved better. The cabin wasn't fancy, but it was mine, a place of my own, a fresh start. Story Part 2. The new home lines 1 to 90 Melanie helped me pack, hugged me at the bus station, and told me she'd visit soon. I arrived at the cabin in the middle of autumn. The trees were golden, the air crisp. It was quiet, peaceful. I stood on the porch and took a deep breath. My spine still ached sometimes, but I could stand tall. And for the first time in my life, I felt whole. I still haven't spoken to my parents. Maybe one day I will. Maybe not. Some wounds heal, others leave scars. But I no longer carry the weight of hoping they'll change. I've built a life without them. One filled with people who chose me, not out of obligation, but out of love. And that I've learned is what family truly means. My son said he wasn't expecting me for Christmas, so I canceled the mortgage payment.